Breaking news. They're coming for the kids. We're coming for them! Sisters broken badges flashing in the night. Knock down doors, no warrant, no right. Take the children, tear the families apart. Hide behind protection while you rip out the heart. Files fabricated, lies on the stand. Judges in their pocket, money changing hands. Parents screaming, cameras never show. The real abuse happens when the CPS shows. Scott ever standing, fighting Tennessee DCS. Forced separation, they tore the family from his chest. Placed on a registry, no charges, no crime. Blount County DCS crossing every line. Evers versus the state, lawsuit in federal court. Exposing the corruption, tearing that system apart. Years of battle, justice delayed, but not denied. A father's resolve with truth on his side. No mercy, no justice, just power unchecked. We expose the corruption, put them under the rack. Got it for CPS. We won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every day. Truth cuts like a blade. Got it for CPS. Your empire's gonna fall. We fight for the families. We fight for the free. CPS. Your time is over. You'll see. Another case buried, another life destroyed. Numbers manipulated, stories over deployed. They call it protection, we call it abduction. State-sponsored kidnapping, legal corruption. Parents labeled unfit for daring to speak. Question the system and they label you weak. We document every raid, every lie, every theft. The resistance is growing, no more silent regret. No mercy, no justice, just power unchecked. We expose the corruption, put them under the rack. Got it for CPS. We won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every day. Truth cuts like a blade. Got it for CPS. Your empire's gonna fade. We fight for the families. We fight for the free. CPS. Your time is over. You'll see. You took the innocent. You destroyed the home. Now the people are waking. And we're coming for your throne. No more silence. No more fear. The revolution starts right here. Got it for CPS. We won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every single day. Got it for CPS. Your kingdom's gonna break for every parent, for every child set free. CPS, we're gunning for thee. This is the podcast, Gunning for CPS, hosted by Scott Evers. Relentless in his fight, Evers versus Tennessee DCS. A father who refuses to yield, exposing every injustice, demanding accountability, reclaiming what was taken. The battle continues.
Thoughts are gone, thoughts don't care. Ghosts in my head, thoughts that tear. F941239 branded on my file before I was 5 years clear. They all said the same shit. Better not tell, kid, it'll get way worse in here. Even the real kids whispering threats while their parents steer. Born in a folder, no crib, just a case number and a hearing date. Pills crushed in my juice, respiratory waves turning toddlers into a court case. F943 anxiety, F90 poesy, separation ink they used to label me. Now those same codes turned into calibers, letters load the AR-15. 5 on 5 6 for the panic attacks, 9 for the snakes, 2, 2, 3 for the mess they made. Leave me alone. This is perfect Christian home. Still feel your husband's hands on my neck. Leave me alone. Night shift worker, keys rattling while you're proud of her. Leave me alone. Caseworker with the crocodile tears. You got paid while I starved through it all. Starved through it all. We the invisibles, aged out the system. No feelings left, just facts and mathematics. Hypervigilant, heart rate, flat rifle, fluent, pistol, fully automatic. Grown now, pulling up, packing. Only lesson we kept is right from wrong. Now wrong, getting corrected. 30-round hymns in a real dark song. You built a monster, set in trauma, now the monster got drums and a mask. Every face got a name, every name got an address, every address getting dead. Ever one fresh meat, still crying for mama, think reunification real. Level 2, bounce like trash, learning roles in every house they make you feel. Level 3, chameleon bag, never unpacked, visible just enough to eat. Level gray, master read a lie in the blink, route around rules in the street. Level 5, invisible state, own ghost file too thick for any worker to read. Sleeping fragments, exits mapped, made it out so low they know you a different breed. We the invisibles, age out the system, no feelings left, just facts and mathematics. Hypervigilant, heart rate flat, rifle fluent, pistol fully automatic. Grown now, pulling up, packing. Only lesson we kept is right from wrong. Now wrong, getting corrected. 30-round hymns in a real dark song. F94 through a 5 pop 6. F93 to a full auto switch. F94 to reactive. That's why the AR twitch. 9 millis for the snakes that smile in your face. 2, 2, 3s for the nights they said this hurts me more. While they finish the chase. Every code they wrote, every caliber, every lie became a round. Every better not tell turned into a reason. We outside right now. Seen kids get walked out the back at 3 a.m. Staff pockets, fat, no sound. One phone call, file closed, another invisible. Never found. They pray we don't de-lock forever or read the barrel in despair. But the ones who survive remember every smell, every room, every step. Thoughts are gone, thoughts aren't care. Ghost in my head, thoughts that tear. We're the invisible. Aged out, fully loaded, no fear, strapped heavy, heart on zero. Just a pulse and a plan. Right from wrong is all we know, and wrong fit to meet the whole fam. Pulling up quiet, windows down, 30-round lullaby. Invoice for every tear, every touch, every read better not tell. This is the correction. Pred's gone dead. 2, 2, 3, good night.
I'm gonna pull the whole thing down. I'm gonna bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's gotta be biblical.
Good evening, and who are we going to piss off today? I'm your host, Gunner. This is Gunning for CPS, and welcome to another edition. Let me fix the camera a little bit. There we go. Is that a little bit better? Things got bumped around a little bit, moving things around and such. Welcome to another edition, and you guys are awesome. Thank you for joining us this evening. As what we do here is we expose the corruption within CPS law enforcement in the family court system. We are for the return to the Constitution and the implementation of the Constitution and bringing back our country to its foundational principles. It's one of the things you learn in just about every aspect of life or anything that you would train for, that when things get complicated or things get muddled, the first thing we do is go back to basics. This is the same application process that we believe and this country and this Constitution demands, that when it gets to those things, that our plan is already laid out for us between the Declaration of Independence, that says when things become tyrannical, it becomes not only our duty, but it also becomes our obligation to cast off those things by any means necessary. One, using the First Amendment, making our petitions known to the court, which is where we're at, which I covered the fact of the case that I have filed with the constitutional question. As of now, there's one. There are many others that also be very clear that we are not just going for case law. A lot of people say, well, you're worried about winning your case. No, I am absolutely not worried about winning my case. It is an open and shut case. The evidence is there. The law is there. The Constitution is there. And when the law is applied, which this will be, not like the state courts that ignore the Constitution of the United States and violate their oath. But we're going to blow that completely out of the water and expose it for what it is: mass corruption and fraud. Because and this is just using logic, cause and effect, using the methodologies that SCOTUS uses, that the Constitution says what it means and means what it says, which is very clear. And we're going to go a little bit more in depth tonight. I don't really have a lot of videos tonight, so I believe we're just going to do a little bit more talking, a little bit more educating tonight. I've been all over the place. Yes, the case is filed. It's just kind of sitting there. We're waiting for movement from the court to do some things. Obviously, with things have been very busy in our country. Senators, so on and so forth, with health issues, things going on. Possibly one of the senators, possibly it being a terrorist attack. That a certain group in Iran is taking credit for killing, possibly poisoning Lindsey Graham. So there is a thing there for that. But we deal with exposing those things, and we educate you on your constitutional rights, what it says, what it means, and how it applies to our world today. In other words, how to use what is supposed to be given to all of us by our founders. Matter of fact, our founders said for our constitutional republic to survive this experiment, is the way it was put, was that we had to have a well-informed citizen. In other words, competent of their constitutional rights and the Constitution and how our government works. But because we have been distracted, over-medicated, poisoned by our foods, fats, and all these other things that are coming out, mass terrorist attacks of COVID-19, supposed attacks, and several other things have come that are, once again, that's not misinformation. That is the way that it is being looked at now once it's been revealed. We also come to a realization of declassification that, yes, MK Ultra was real, mind control was real, propaganda was real, and this was being used on the American people. Was never supposed to, because of our country is different than any others, that we are governed where we, the people, are the ones in charge, not the government. And they get a little bit too big for their britches a lot of times and get power hungry with some of these people, that we have seen this to where now we are in a position in our country to where there is mass corruption. You've even got the director of the Veterans Administration Hospital for over $10 million of embezzlement just for funding, because he directed what services or anything else they would. He was the selector of contracts and bribed people just out openly. Hey, this is what I demand. So much in this, casino chips overnight. I mean, it was that blatant. And these were for our veterans. We have failed. We have failed our children. We have failed our veterans. And it is time to return back to the Constitution and purify this country and purge it from anything that is not constitutional and never should have been in the first place. Yeah, I mean, half the things in some of these states like Virginia and everything else, for you to even propose anything that was in a state for gun control, you would be, to even suggest that, you would be executed for acts of treason. It's just that simple. The problem is we have gone soft in this country, and to be dead honest, because people feel there's no consequences for their actions of, I'll survive, I'll get fined, or that's if I get caught. To be honest, this country needs to go back to public executions and for people that commit treason. And this includes those judges and magistrates that says when they violate their oath and go against the Constitution, they commit an act of war against the Constitution and people. And it's very clear, especially for magistrates and judges, when they do these things, that they must be put to death. That's not my words. That is the Constitution. And we have to go by that. And I think that's where we have failed as a country, because we'll just put them in jail. No, there are certain things that this jail time, some of this other stuff, no, we've got you. You're dead to rights. Execute you. I mean, and wake people up. You screw up and you're in that position of power and authority. That's what you risk by taking this job. And they just feel that wasn't fair, even to the point of doing unconstitutional judicial immunity. Yes, I did use the words unconstitutional and judicial immunity. Yes, judicial immunity is unconstitutional. And yes, I have the argument for that as well. And that may be one of the constitutional other questions that is proposed to this court. And I dare you to go to SCOTUS with it, because it lines up with exactly what SCOTUS has written, that they do in their processes, how they believe, the way they process these cases. We have studied this in very, very closely, to the point we can make and say that comment of saying you're going to have to, because you can't, because it nullifies the Constitution. Nobody's immune, not even the president. I want you to think about that. How can police and judges and magistrates claim immunity when the president himself is not immune from anything? That's pretty insulting, and it's unconstitutional, 100%. They don't want you to know that, because if you knew your Constitution, you would have never fell for it in the first place, let alone a judge ruled on that first. A judge cannot rule on something that benefits them. It's null and void. That's called a bias, which is why we're going through what we are. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit more about in depth with the case with Article 3, Section 2, and we're going to show you exactly what we're talking about. And I've heard arguments, well, the state has got power. The state can do this. The state can do that. Well, I'm going to go straight in and I'm going to go straight into, let's go to the Constitution. One, let's go to, let's deal with that thing where the state, okay? People say, well, the state has the power to do this. The state can do this. The state can have these courts. The state. And that's their whole argument. Your Honor, that those things are this. Well, let's you and I go there and let's go read it. Why don't we? And we're just going to be clear. We're just going to educate you. We're going to walk the dog, so to speak. What's this say? Right here. The power, this is the 10th Amendment. This is giving powers to the state. The powers, read this word here, not delegated to the United States by the Constitution. I want you to hear that. That's the federal government. Powers not delegated to the United States or the federal government by the Constitution. In other words, it's written somewhere in there, nor prohibited by it to the states. In other words, you're not prohibited. In other words, the states can't have it. We're not saying you can have it, but we're also saying you can't have it. In other words, this is your no-no list. In other words, we're not giving it to you, but at the same time, you're also not getting the things to probe. So they're closing the loophole with this, the way this was written. And then it goes on to say, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people, because we come first, because it goes to us. Once again, that's what protects us. Now, you've read this. I want you to keep all this in mind. Get your pen and paper, 10th Amendment, this and that. When, if you're in state court or anything else and say, well, we have the power and I have the jurisdiction, and you're going to read the 10th Amendment. What's it say? Power is not given to you by the Constitution you can't have, nor things prohibited that the states can't have, you're not allowed to have. And they're reserved to the states respectively. In other words, or to the people. In other words, the people have the power, reaffirming the power of the people. 10th Amendment. Now, let's go to the Constitution, the first part. Powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution. In other words, they don't have powers. In other words, they're from God. Okay. And stuff that's in the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states. In other words, there's that other section. So that's also talking about a creator, the power, those things found in God. Though that type of wording was in there. In other words, we can't rule over things that are natural or man-made or all this, which really makes you question, well, wait a minute, how can you do that on weed or marijuana or anything else? That's a plant. That's a great question. Because once again, that is powers not given to the United States, because it's something found in nature by God. That is an argument somebody could have in a court. And it's a legitimate question. How is it that you have powers over this, and that, when you're delegated not to have powers over things that grow out of the earth or power? You can't even patent them if they're found in nature. Even the Patent Office recognizes this. So let's go to the next part. And this is real simple. This is the basis of the constitutional question that we went in, and you're saying this is what brings the kids home. Yes, because who is CPS or the cabinet or DCS or whatever you want to call it? It's a arm of the state, the executive branch of the state. So the state, when you look at your paper on the court work, or on the paperwork from the family bullshit court, the fake court, the unconstitutional court, the criminals, the imitating a federal court, criminal act, because that's exactly what they're doing. You caught them. How do they have the power? So let's go into, and we're going to walk the dog. Once again, this is just walking the dog. Here we go. Let's see if this thing will come up. That's 10th Amendment. Let's go with this one. Okay, right here. What's this say? This is Article 3, Section 2. There's Clause 2. Supreme Court jurisdiction. Now, this is the power of the courts. In all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, and those in which, wait, what was that? And those in which a state shall be a party. In other words, a defendant or the plaintiff. Who has original jurisdiction? The Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. It's there in black and white. You can't claim this power was given to the state to hear these cases, because the Constitution never gave them to you. Matter of fact, they prohibited the fact you could even hear these cases. Yeah, that's pretty messed up. That includes all cases of a similar fashion with other branches of the executive branch of the state. You're in a state courtroom. Well, we have the right. No, that's not what it says. There's no exception. When you're dealing with this or this or this, it says all cases where the state's a party. Is those particular thing a representative of the case where they're the plaintiff and you're the defendant? We're supposed to be in federal court. If not, that court is imitating a federal courtroom, and that is a felony for those judges and magistrates to do such. It's a criminal act, and they've been doing it for decades. So unlike other groups or another group that came to claim this, that it was my idea because they overheard my conversation with another person and ran with it, but ran with it stupidly because they don't have a case to file. They've never been injured this way. So they can't run to the court and say, oh, wait, this happened to me. let alone stupid enough to say, I'm going straight to SCOTUS. You don't go to SCOTUS. SCOTUS is a division of the appellate court. You have to go into the lower courts first. You can't run to them right away unless you're the president with a constitutional question. And even then, it's usually to the Chief Justice. Worst case scenario. We want this answered. Because states can do that too. And I don't know if you guys know that, but your state, you can file a constitutional question in a lower court or make the state turn around and file to the federal court and go, we want a ruling. We want an answer because we're unclear. And this is a constitutional question. The state can submit one on behalf of a case with you. You can do it, even in family court. Matter of fact, they're supposed to stop everything. Hey, I got a constitutional question. How the fuck do you have jurisdiction? Well, I'm going to file it under this. Well, it's this now because once again, you have to articulate. Everybody goes, well, what about these rulings that they come out and it's not right? Because it's how the case is presented to the court, what information, what guidelines, everything else. They're a neutral party in a way. They understand the law and everything else. You have to build your case both ways. Okay? You have to build your case the same way they build the case against you, only do a better job. But it's clear that you can't claim it's a 10th Amendment. We have the right to, because the Article 3, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution clearly states that power was never given to you. Actually, it's something says you can't have is cases to where your buddies from the state can't go into a state courtroom. Well, why? Because it's extreme bias. You go back to the founding framers, and they had a whole conversation on. There's a whole section in the Federalist Papers that discusses this. Why? And you're going to understand why, because I'm going to explain it to you. And it's exactly the reason it was put in there, and why they shouldn't have it is exactly what's going on. Because Alexander Hamilton come along and got together and says, hey, we can't have a bunch of people in one particular state get together and get power hungry and turn on a person or turn on a group of people to where they enslave them. Because that's what was going on was power, constant grab for power and authority. So said, listen, let's bring it to a neutral court in a federal court. Well, at that time they didn't have district courts. You had to travel to Washington to the Supreme Court to get those questions, or you had to wait, or it was done by horseback, or a lot of different things through time. But in the 10th Amendment, it says they can't have that power to hear these cases. Why? Because the Constitution strictly forbid that they could have it. It's an open and shut case. So when people say, aren't you worried? No. Because it says what it means, and it means what it says. And if you've got the 10th Amendment and Article 3 on your side, there's nowhere that the state can run and go, but we can't. No, you can't. It's a criminal act now, because now what you're doing is you're imitating the Supreme Court, a federal judge. That's a felony. And here's the funny part is the history. If you don't know the history of state court judges or administrative law judges, as they're labeled, they were originally called justices of the peace, and they didn't wear black robes. Matter of fact, a lot of times your sheriff played dual roles between a justice of the peace and the sheriff. So yes, that old TV show, Andy Griffith, where he kind of did both, was very common at the time and period. Now we've grown, we've populated more, everything else, and now they've come up with these district courts and several other things, but some things have still not changed. Foundational values of our Constitution has not changed one bit. These are the absolutes, and they have been breaking the law for decades. On top of it, they have been defrauding you and I, the taxpayer, both state and federal, and receiving Title IV funds. They found a way to milk it by having illegal hearings to steal children and to obtain them illegally. This is child trafficking, folks. And everybody says, yeah, when I tell people out there, hey, the reckoning in this case, everything else, we do have a real shot to abolish. Why? Because that makes it a criminal enterprise. RICO. And it's all done by the state. And then the other question is going to have to answer, y'all come up with codes and statutes and policies and procedures and everything in the state. So the state is expressly implicative in all 50 states of criminal actions of this criminal enterprise to betray we the people. The states have turned on us. We always earlier said the federal government, the federal government. And we never thought it would come this close and home. Now it's all the way to your local government. Mass corruption, including here, especially in Blount County, Tennessee. You're screwed. And now that this information is going out there and you guys are getting that information and you're sharing, you're going, holy crap, CPS is coming. Have you heard about this case? And I got caseworkers scared. I got senators scared. I've got all sorts of people scared. Holy crap, he's not wrong. And he's the first to file in American history. It's a Whistleblower Act, the whole 9 yards. Guys, if you're watching this, you need to get a hold of, yes, there is a real thing that the kids will come home. They say, well, no, because they never had jurisdiction to issue those orders. They never had the authority. They never had the power, which means it's null and void. What does that mean? That if the ruling comes out, it's go get your kids. You will see me on making a press release. We have got the ruling and this is how they have decided. Yes. Every single case that the case was heard where CPS did it, which means those judges heard that, which means they couldn't hear any other cases. All those cases are now null and void. Go find your children. And on top of it, yes, law enforcement is implicated in it. And so are lawmakers and the whole thing. This is the actual dump of the Epstein chain of dominoes that we got to the core of it and says, now we found your dark money. Now we found your dark state, your deep state. We found everything here. Now we're educating too, because now too many of us know, and you can't kill us all. And I'm already a dead man walking. What are you going to take from me? I've already got a death sentence. Right there. Heart failure. Less than 10%. And I'm out here fighting for you guys and fighting for me, saying this ain't right, and for future generations doing the right thing when nobody else would. That means every single, and even the attorneys are shaken. Why? Because that means they were part of the embezzlement to charge you folks money. Family court, right? Why did your attorney go up and go, hey, you don't have jurisdiction to hear this. I'm supposed to be in federal court. These are licensed professionals of the law. Yeah, they scammed you. The entire attorney association scammed the American people to get rich and have a false sense of power. And now it's all coming down. And no, I won't shut up. Why? Because when we're quiet, the information out here, because where I stand, and there's the other thing, it wasn't just filed with my name on it. It wasn't just, it says my name and it says pro se, but it also says sui juris. What does sui juris mean, Gunner? As one of we the people, which means my case could be picked up by any other person that I so delegate if something was to happen to me. Y'all didn't know that, did you? But once again, the purpose, once again, going back to the foundation, our country is based off being a group or a people of well-informed citizens where we didn't need attorneys or lawyers. Matter of fact, the word is counsel in the Constitution. They changed that. Why would it say counsel, Gunner? Because every adult American is supposed to be competent with a complete understanding of the Constitution, the workings of their government and your constitutional rights, not just your job or what you do to make a living. That's actually a requirement to be a citizen. In other words, if you're given the right to vote, excuse me, sorry, a little cardiac cough there. If you're given the proper information and knowledge, guys, you would have already known this wouldn't have gotten this far if they hadn't dumped us down. If you knew it was right here, as I just showed you today, it's just that clear and simple. And they've been getting away with this for 3 decades more. And we just let them do it. And the attorneys and the lawyers, or whatever you want to call them, let them get away with it. Because it made them all money. They made a living charging you 4, 5, 600, 7,000, whatever an hour to live high on the horse. Because I have a degree that says I'm a lawyer, attorney, whatever. I have a license. But you couldn't understand one simple thing is if it's unconstitutional, it's null and void. You didn't even have jurisdiction to hear the case, which means you should have never, and I'm going to say it again, never. I'll let you stare at that a little bit. That one kind of hurts, don't it, guys? And you're thinking, oh my God, it was just that simple. Yeah, it's that simple. But they overcomplicated it. They got into your emotions. They kept your head spinning with this, and that, let alone they weren't paying attention to the this is why they don't give a shit about the Constitution when you go into family court anyway, because the very fact that they're even hearing the case is unconstitutional. Wow. That's pretty heavy, Gunner. That's right. That's why they are the #1 child trafficking organization in this country. And that is the evidence. And yes, it's RICO. Between law enforcement, lawmakers, the judges, the entire state system government. What do you think this is going to do? Well, here's the thing. When it comes down to that, they're criminals. I'm using the peaceful method of using the First Amendment to make my petitions known before the court to correct it. I'm trying the peaceful way. When this verdict comes out, does that mean everybody's going to take the peaceful way? Probably not. Because now you know your kids were kidnapped. You now have a ruling to back you up. The evidence is on the federal record. It's not going to be a January 6th thing of an insurrection. It's going to be a correction back to the Constitution. And we, the people, have now uncovered everything. It may be the next Civil War, folks. It's not a joke. But we don't want that. We want a chance for them to bring in, remove these people, arrest them. Because we're going to make, once again, it's not just this. We've got so much more. But once again, it would be very stupid of me to take and reveal everything that is planned or within our strategy legally. That would just be foolish. And that's going to be something that we're going to encourage you guys as we get closer and we do get a court date set and everything else, looking for rallies and everything else as the courts are going on, because we want you guys to be firsthand, to be there. And we're hoping, believe it or not, and no, I'm not kidding. And that's why we're wanting to spread the word about the reckoning and how real this is, more than any other movement, more than Meg, Tanawa, all these other things. And respectfully, they understand why, hopefully, or, even Jessica Saxon's organizations, Stand With Meg, all the other things. I really don't give a shit, because what you're doing is not going to abolish CPS. What we're doing is, and then you're going to be irrelevant. I don't want to be, once again, everybody, hero syndrome. No, I don't give a shit. You can take all that glory and look at me and all that other stuff. I don't give a shit. I want to win my case, set the record right, put things on the right path, get what is deserved to me and my family for the damage I was done, and to be honest, be left alone and live the rest of my life peacefully and free and under the Constitution. That is my goal. The rest is going to be up to you guys, because the amount of mass after this verdict goes through, that means everybody that has had their kids taken for the past couple of decades can file 1983s left and right using my case as a reference and go, I was one of them, and just name the players. And then you can go after their personal assets. And it's an open and shut case. They'll be trying to settle out of court left and right so fast. But what it will end up doing is bankrupting CPS to where they're uninsurable and they have nobody to work, because all of their actors are going to be probably in handcuffs and in jail for acts of treason, high treason. Yeah, we've got some very serious stuff on them. It's not a joke. Matter of fact, they are a national security threat. Speaking of which, I have done some additional things to get off that a little bit later. Flock cameras. We are going to discuss very, let's see, Lewis says, so if lawyers don't follow constitutions, should citizenship be revoked? You're looking, once again, they are co-conspirators, Lewis. There's not a matter of citizenship. I believe they become almost a second-class citizen after they're a felon anyway, aren't they? Because that's colluding with the enemy. So actually, we're not talking about citizenship. They'll have felony charges put on them as co-conspirators because they profited from it, and all of their assets will be seized. That's the way the law works. It's part of the fraud. They have defrauded the people. So no, we're looking at flipping the economy too. So imagine all the lawyers and judges and properties and cars and bank accounts and everything else and all these fancy shit that they've got in boats now becomes property of we the people to settle their court debts and their insurance and everything else. They will never work in government. And on top of it, these are crimes against children. They'll never be around. Here's the flip part. All these people, they go with this, the judges, the magistrate, the lawyers, and all this, because it dealt with children, we will be encouraging crimes against children for all filings criminally. Because you tried to destroy the family. You tried to overthrow our government and destroy our nation from within. And then you brought in somebody else that wanted to take it over, like what's been happening of terrorist attacks. The tar and feather things, those were things they done. That's more of a historical thing that was done more than that was written down that somebody could do. Henry, you probably refer back to the Constitution or the Federalist Papers and a couple other writings like that that told of the stories that they would do that to the politicians and judges and this and that would mark them literally for life. It was a scarring, kind of an old world way of marking somebody, like a scarlet letter type thing. That was a very poisonous person. So you've got all these different concepts that go in here, and we're not looking for that. We're looking for a peaceful resolution, and we've got this planned out very strategically. We know how we're going to have to deal with it, and we're hoping for the best. And we are encouraging people to do this as peacefully as possible once this comes out, because this will require action by the president. And yes, the president will have to be notified with what's in the case. There's no way around it. Matter of fact, one of the witnesses will be the U.S. Attorney General. Will be put on the stand in this case to answer some questions. And we have a legitimate right to ask those questions and call those people. But once again, it's very unique. And when you get into it, you're just going to go like, damn. But, there's a lot of questions out there that you guys have got. But let's get back to the flock cameras. So I've done some research into the flock camera systems, and I've looked at the actual contract. Matter of fact, I'm not the only one that's looked at these contracts. There is a section in there with Flock America or USA or whatever in their contract. It says all the data and information collected can be used worldwide to benefit the advancement of the technology. That is a national security risk when you put worldwide in that contract. And whoever signed those things, and by definition, has actually committed an act of treason against the people. You signed something giving away our national security or giving them permission to put that in there, and then saying you as a position of authority to give over our sovereignty and our privacy, and let alone our tactical information, to foreign entities worldwide. That is an act of treason. And this is why those things are cutting down. Now, a lot of people say, well, Gunnar, will they get hit? I go, no, because under the Constitution, and you show that contract law, no, I had a right to remove that under the Constitution. Why? You made a deal for national security threat. We took it down. Here's your evidence right there. It says right there, worldwide, you're going to use our information here in the U.S. and use it to benefit your product and share it worldwide. That means our information is out there. They have collected it and they're selling it. That's an act of treason. That's like taking top secret documents and selling it off to the highest bidder. You know, forgive me, I forget the word tonight. It's a high treason. I mean, that's what they tried to do with Snowden. Oh, well, he sent off documents with that. No, they were documents exposing corruption. Big difference. So when it comes down to these people with this net under the Constitution, should these people be charged or anything else? Absolutely not. The people that signed those contracts, the sheriffs, the city councilmen, the county councilmen, everything else, whoever used Americans' taxpayer money to pay for this system and sign a contract to give away our national security, they should be arrested. And their assets seized. Why? To pay for those bullshit cameras and any contractual obligations or anything else. Hell no. You should go to jail. If not executed. Once again, you start executing people for some serious shit, they're going to kind of stop. That's why the Constitution put it in there. There are certain punishments that are, severe and extreme enough to make sure you got everybody's attention. I better not do that because it makes me fear for my life. Now they pay somebody off, grease and bum. I maybe do some jail time in a white collar prison or this, and that. Lose some stuff, whatever else, play 5 rounds of golf, whatever it may be. Live the high life because they won't put me with the animals. I think I ought to put every single one of them bastards in general fucking population and let things take care of itself. In my opinion. Yep. Every single caseworker, investigator, anybody from CPS, law enforcement, judges, magistrates, all those crooked fuckers, every single one of them, put them in there and put them in Gen Pop. But once again, knowing the Constitution like I do, hey, that's a nice thought, but at the same time, unrealistic. Why? Because when you're on trial for treason, that's that doesn't go on U.S. soil, nor does it happen in an American courtroom. That's a military tribunal. That's why Trump gave over the country before he left office the first time to the military. Power of military tribunal. Matter of fact, if you follow me on Facebook, I shared the ceremony. It came up again where, all the people from, all the intelligence agency, this, that, all the military personnel. It was a ceremony. And if you know nothing about ceremonies, military ceremonies, you watched it, it was clueless. You could care less, probably. Okay, another little thing with a parade or that's where he gave it up. And they're still running a lot of those things. And yeah, we're still back on. Matter of fact, their military is in on FBI and several other things in this thing. You will be compliant. They're overwatching this. We're at war. And now possibly a terrorist attack of where a jihadist or an Iranian that we have on our borders, that they've allowed in our borders, is now claiming killing the poisoning of Lindsey Graham, saying that this was part of their hit list, like, most wanted. Yeah, we're getting ready to go through something in this country real fast. So we better get constitutional real fast and get to purging a whole lot of things. Because understand, if that's a threat to our Constitution, why they got let in? Because they can't assimilate. Because they want Sharia law over the Constitution. And that alone is an act of treason. They should have never been let in. because they can't. And once again, then you've lied on your application or whatever it may be, and bye-bye back to the desert and mountain region. You know, happy goat day. That's all I'll tell you. But once again, I don't understand half of it, let alone, the things. If you go through the logical process here in America with enough pork and everything else, there's actually so much pork, it's in the air. How can you breathe that and still feel clean? I mean, but once again, I digress. Logic, here we go again. How dare I? But it's one of those things that we're coming down to a position in our country that we're going to have to make a decision. Are we going to be overthrown, overtaken, or are we going to shake this thing off, purify everything, get back to the Constitution, and and kick those people out or execute the people that we have to get us back to the Constitution and live free again? And a lot of people aren't going to know what that's like. And that's a scary thing for a lot of people. And saying, and Gunnar, do you have this? Yeah, I've got some suggestions. But here's the other thing I want to tell you guys, and let me run this past you. And where we have failed because of the lack of education and we didn't read what we should have is when we do these lawsuits or when we ask these constitutional questions. And I used to tell my guys this as a former business owner when we'd have trouble or something on a job site. You've talked about the problem enough. You've given me, 5, 10 different complaints of, 20 different things of how things are wrong. How many of you have spent any time coming up with a solution? How many solutions do we have? Or have we wasted all of our time bitching and moaning? That's not being productive. Matter of fact, it's right there in the Declaration of Independence that tells us what our duty and obligation is. Identify it, purge it, rebuild it, and make sure it never happens again. Did you catch all 4 of those? They're in the Declaration of Independence. Right there, that structures. So when we do that, it's not just coming up and bitching, I was done wrong, or this is major. What do we do to fix it? Well, we've got some solutions. One, it's called constitutional lens training. It is of my belief, it is of my understanding, which I believe it was an understanding in the Constitution, because we turned around and said what was necessary for a constitutional republic was that we had a well-informed citizens who are elected appointed officials. That means they must be qualified. That's assuming you're qualified and know the Constitution. We're assuming that with that now we have come to find out this is not true. It is of my belief that a triple-blind paper test issued by the United States military, unknown to anybody, randomly, that a constitutional test is required for any person that would serve in any capacity of the state or federal government in any of those positions. Even if you're working as a secretary, got to know. Why? Because everything you touch or do in your official capacity, you must look through everything you do, process, paperwork, no matter what it is, and ask the question, is this constitutional? Put on the constitutional lens, dissect it, and see whether or not there's anything there before they proceed. It would be a set of checks and balances by the people, we the people, to do this that would benefit and protect we the people, and from the erroneous ways of state and government officials and actors if this process was done and testing was done. Let alone, I asked a very serious question, and a humbling one. How the fuck do we send our men and women, let alone to sign up for a draft at the age of 18 for young men, just young men, not women? They're not in the draft. Yeah, got a problem with that one too. That's not equal. Like it or not, it's not equal. Let's be fair. It's not equal. But the point comes down to, how do we expect them to serve when they don't even know what they're serving to protect, if they don't understand the Constitution and the true freedoms and how it applies to their day every day? And yes, even our veterans are under attack, and their families, even while they're serving, by CPS and the family courts. I got a real problem with that. And I hope you do too, if you're a true American, because a true American is a true constitutionalist. They're not a Democrat. They're not a Republican. I am a constitutionalist. It is the law of the land. Matter of fact, there are even rights that the Constitution says in one of the amendments that have not yet been enumerated or not even been revealed yet that we have, that it says in the Constitution. And you're not to cross that line. You're not to question it. If you want to attack it or you want to change it, you go through the right process, and shit like the stuff that the states of Virginia and some of the other states are doing that have unconstitutional, and all 50 states do have things that have policies, procedures, statutes, and codes that are unconstitutional 100%. I guarantee it, and I can prove it in a court of law. You've got things on the books that should have never been there, because the very actions or other things that it pertains to wasn't constitutional in the first place. And you would start shaving so much bullshit off and stop the horse shit. Start trimming the fat, the bullshit off. The infected part, cut it out. It's a cancer. That's exactly what we're talking about. Let's get back to the Constitution. If we get back to the Constitution, a lot of other problems will solve itself if you start doing a constitutional audit to make sure all policies, procedures, codes, and everything else, all the way from state, federal government, I mean, they're pretty hardcore on it. But at the same time, state government especially is the biggest problem on this, all the way down the ladder, including to your local government, to make sure they're compliant. Then you wouldn't have people taking and saying and standing up at county meetings or city meetings and talking, and the person on the panel doesn't like what I say. Sheriff, take them into custody. There, you're out of order. I'm not going to hear this. You stupid motherfucker. That's called First Amendment. And you're getting caught and sued left and right because of your ignorance. But it's not enough to shut them down, and it's not going to fix the problem. Knowledge is the solution to this. Education. So when they do it, then you can say you would do it. You did have intent because you knew better. Because right now, a lot of people, well, I don't know. But once again, here's the thing with the law. Ignorance of the law does not negate your consequences for breaking the law. You're still going to have to do the time. And that's what it's going to come down to. And here's the point that we're going to force their hand. You're going to do this. Ain't going to be Epstein pals and you know, what's her name? Yeah, we're getting a rain service, so there's the flash flood warning. You know, this stuff that's going on, we're going to have to take it and come out and say, we're not going to give you a choice. They took our kids. They emptied our bank accounts. They fucking enslaved us. This is Eighth Amendment cruel and unusual punishment on the record. You don't come in and fix this. We, the people, will not just go get our kids. We will leave a blood path all along the way to get the kids. I would much rather them have justice and be brought in and made to answer. Why? Because the bullet's too quick. But I know some people won't be as patient as me if it's not done right. And this is why I'm telling people, wait till it's on the record. Wait till we get the ruling. When we get the ruling, we the people then have the power and the acknowledgement, because then they can't cry, this is an insurrection, this is innocent, they're trying to overtake the states. No, we're trying to overthrow under the Declaration of Independence because you've been doing criminal shit, including trafficking children, you bastards. We're coming for you. TikTok, And you hate that we, the people, have waited. This is why they hate this show. This is why they hate that I talk out. This is why they hate that I educate. Hey, go back and watch those shows on YouTube. Great place to start. There's a couple years, worth of shows on there. Tons of education and knowledge and this and this and that. Go eat that shit up. Go to my Facebook page and just scroll for days on stuff that I post and get in there and soak that up and get that point of view and get that. Then go, and at the same time, I'm telling you, now go, not just watch the shows and do it, go read this shit for yourself. Read the actual Declaration of Independence for yourself. Read it. Not as that boring thing in history class and this, like it fucking means something to you. Then go read the Constitution. And if you don't understand it, go back to the Federalist Papers and try to gain that knowledge and understanding of what they were thinking. Why? Because if you got to fight in a damn courtroom, that's exactly how SCOTUS makes their decisions. There are these same methodologies. You're fighting when you write things or you do things, even quoting members of SCOTUS, sitting members of the SCOTUS panel. This is what they say. Go back and read their book. That means they have to go back and read it, or they got to know what's SCOTUS, which is there. If you're in district court, you're reading what the appellate court and what their bosses say. Well, I already know how the appellate court's going to look at it, let alone if this does go to SCOTUS. This motherfucker's quoting SCOTUS. Do you think they're going to go back on their word? And he's got the people behind him. I don't want to do a movement. I don't want my name on this. I don't want to go down in the history books. Hell no. I want to be left the hell alone. I want the things they took back from me, my health and everything else, my time. Can't give that back. But maybe I can take and secure my, what little bits left of my future and my children and future grandchildren and everything else and that type of shit, and make sure they're secure and they have the protection and they have the knowledge and understanding. And even more about that, and on top of that, financials and trust law and some of these other things to make sure this shit don't happen no more. I get the same protection as, the Rockefeller people and some of the others. You can't touch me. There are people that are like that, and they're set up there that way legally so they can't. And you can't go after their kids. But you weren't taught that because you're one of the peasants. You're one of the slaves. They don't give a shit. But once again, that's not what this country was based off. This country was based off you and me being educated, understanding, and coming together on one common goal. One common thread that we all understood living here. We agree to the contract of the Constitution. That's it. We disagree on everything else all day long. I'm not having an argument with the Constitution. It says what it says and means what it says, and it is the law of the land. Like it or not. If you don't, sure, grab your passport, pack your shit, and everything else going. And as far as that new Democrat, socialist, everything else, doing that shit and publishing we're going to eliminate the president, we're going to do away from this, and we're going to run this system. And, they're calling us communists, this and that. No, I'm calling you traitors. And to be honest with you, the fact that you have written that and putting that on American soil, and in my opinion, and under the Constitution, is an act of treason, and I believe you should be put to death. Well, that's for a political position. No, you have clearly said you are looking to overthrow and do away with the Constitution and the president and the judicial branch. That is an act of war. That what you have published is a declaration of war. And that is the legal term for it. And if people would figure this out and would quit this shit and start rounding these bastards up, this shit would stop if they would start seeing consequences. And no, it's not some evil thing and one thing. No, you can live free and everything else. But one thing, you're not going against our Constitution. Same thing with Sharia law. You want to run your mouth about that? Guess what? Two choices. Pack the hell up, or guess what? Bang, traitor. Show people that we mean business. And it's going to come down to it, people, if we don't get a little bit more stern and start buying plane tickets. Bottom line. That's a harsh reality. And once again, that's not me saying, hey, no, I'm telling you, look at history. Because you've got people that are from there and go, hey, this is how it started. because Iran wasn't always the way it was today. Look it up. Guys, it's been a great show. We're going to cut it loose. It's been great to share some time with you, share some education with you, some knowledge. I hope this has helped you better understand the premise of the constitutional question that has been filed in my case, the first thing, and what it means for you, me, and everybody else out there that's going through things with CPS. Their days are numbered, and it is going to end. We are extremely confident. I thank you for your time. That's we didn't have a whole lot of clips tonight, but man, we covered a whole lot of whole lot of information. So guys, welcome to the reckoning. Thank you for joining us. Take the information and knowledge that we've given you this week and throughout the week. Join us on Facebook. We're on TikTok, several other platforms. Remember, if you missed the show, you didn't miss the show, you can always go on YouTube and go see past shows. And I do upload the shows like this one here as soon as I get done. I will be getting it live, getting it up for you guys to do podcasts and just listen to your car out there on Spotify. Everything's under Gunning Forward, the number 4 CPS. Those are the platforms. Like I said, follow me everywhere, gain the information, create the communities, man, get the word out there, but get the word out there to Americans, everybody going through CPS cases. Let them know what's going on here. Forget about the makeup sales, forget about the bullshit, forget about everything else. This is where it ends. Get your ass on board, get support. We need you guys. We need your support. We need your awareness, and we need you to get out there and spread the word and start scaring the shit out of these judges and lawyers because we know you're getting ready to end. It's time to stand up. We're done. And there's now hope. There's an actual real shot that this ends. And trust me, I'm going to do my damnedest. And I've got the damnedest evidence for everything. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you again here next week, every Sunday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is Gunner for Gunning for CPS, and we are signing off for the evening. Have a great week, and don't forget to piss somebody off today and every day, just for fun. See you guys next week.